All right, aisle two. One minor note about the two dice houses, while I'm thinking about it, is as soon as you enter them, you want to dash, jump, dash, without holding any direction, ASAP, and mash to talk to the king dice as fast as you can. If you do it quick enough, you'll talk to him almost instantly, like his text boxes will appear almost instantly. If you're just a tiny bit slow, he'll wait like an extra half a second or something to talk to you. Some weird like frame rule type thing if you're familiar with that concept, but yeah. Basically just get to him and talk to him ASAP. But anyways, next up we have Bon Bon. Now how Bon Bon works is there's 5 mini bosses. She picks 3 of them, and then she shuffles up the order. You can fight the 3 in any order. And then there's like her final phase. So how I'm going to structure this part of the tutorial is I'm going to just show 5 fights, 1 with each starter minion, and kind of talk over the general strategies and stuff. Because each minion you do handle a little different, it's mainly when it's the first one. The later ones are pretty straightforward and similar, like if it's the second or third minion. But the first minion, depending on which of the 5 it is, that can be different. So starting off, you're just going to shoot upright lobbers, or any of them, and then we're going to just sit here and react to what we're given.
Now go.
Okay, so Candy Corn. Now Candy Corn, he's a bit random. He could basically go up or down once he reaches about the middle of the screen. If he goes to the far edge of the screen, he will always go up or down. And then switch directions, horizontal direction. So the main thing with him is I just like to stand here until he gets close. And then I'm going to try to spread shot him as much as I can. But when it's inconvenient to hit spread shot, like when I'm going to have to like move around, I'm going to try to use lobber and like use flick lobbers or set up mini lobber traps, just whatever I need to when I'm not able to conveniently hit him with spread shot. Something like that. Okay, so that's Candy Corn. Now, what I'm going to do is as soon as the gate opens up, I'm going to start setting up a lobber trap, and I'm going to do kind of like a traditional lobber trap like we did with Root Pack and stuff. I'm just going to jump, do 1 lobber at the peak of my jump, and then start doing your bread and butter, like 2 lobbers near the peak. Let's see that. And then what I'm going to do is after I set up 3 lobbers like that, I'm just going to be setting up, like holding shoot and setting up lobbers on the ground. And then when Bon Bon goes to go back into the castle, so it's kind of like right before she's fully in the castle, we're going to shoot an upwards lobber EX. We're going to do a same weapon Calva swap as normal. And what this is going to do, the goal of this, is that the lobber EX will blow up on the ground right as the minion, the next, whatever the minion's going to be, is going to enter the arena. This is going to hit it for a ton of damage. Then what we're going to do is we're going to dash left, and that way we could react to what minions come. Now, typically in this situation, I would damage boost the incoming minion if it's Cupcake or if it's Waffle. Those 2 I basically almost always are going to damage boost if I have the HP. If it's Pinball Machine, I'm just going to dash away to the far left. If it was Candy Corn, I would just jump over him and then track him, typically. And which we already fought Candy Corn in this case. And if it's Jawbreaker, you could kind of just do like a flick lobber and some spread and he should die. Okay, so him, I'm going to do a dash away and some flick lobbers. Now, the reason it doesn't really help much to damage boost on him is just because of the Pinball Machine. You want to kill him as he's turning, and so getting a tiny bit more damage by not doing the dash would not help. It would actually lose time because you would kill him a little bit sooner. And when you... basically, he would continue running to the right, but more slowly, and then he'd exit the arena, and that's just slow. So, yeah, basically just do what I did there if you get pinball second or third. Watch out for a Jelly Bean. Sometimes the pinball takes such a long time that he could really mess you up there. So same thing here. Now, for this, Jawbreaker has an extremely long death animation. Some things as well, like pinball takes forever to kind of get off screen. And even Waffle takes a bit of a death animation, although Jawbreaker is by far the longest. So one thing you can do is when you're going into the last phase, is you can use this upper platform to jump dash at the castle and set up a really high lobber. And just basically just start getting the biggest lobber trap you can get to prep for a Bon Bon. And as soon as she shows up, we're going to switch to spread and just start doing spread EXs with same weapon Calva swaps. Now, one thing I like to do is I like to be rubbed up against the castle. But once the castle's fully active, she starts moving forward a little bit. So if you just stand on the ground, you'll kind of like, the castle will move into you and hit you. And also the castle can damage you. So what I like to do is after kind of make sure I'm rubbed up against the castle, I tap left a little bit. Just to be a tiny bit away from the castle. And then I just keep trying to jump ASAP. Because when you're in the air, the castle doesn't really get any closer to you. It's only when you're on the ground that the castle will move into you. And yeah, just finish her off there. Let's try to see if we can get some other minions. Okay, so Jawbreaker. In general, Jawbreaker's really slow, but if you get him first or last, it's not too bad. If you get him last, as you can see, we can set up a really good lobber trap to make quick work at the last phase. If you get him first, he just doesn't have much health. So while you don't have your EX moves yet, it's kind of just okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just keep lobbering him until he gets close. Spread shot, and then I'm going to do a few flick lobbers, and then I'm going to switch to spread. Once I get to the left edge of the screen, switch to spread, jump, and then shoot straight down. Let's see if I can do that. Like that. And that should always kill him before he hits you, as long as you get... I did 3 flick lobbers there, and then switch to spread. Now, another strat you could do, I recommend watching Clipboard's runs if you want to see an alternate strat, is you can just jump up on the green platform, and the platform will move you away from him, and you could shoot him with spread. So if you want to see what that looks like, I recommend watching Clipboard's runs. And yeah. So here we're going to do... I'm going to set up a really high up lobber, like right before I think the gate's going to open. Okay, just going to damage boost the Waffle. Also, the Waffle, some important notes about the Waffle is he has 2 stacked hitboxes. So he has like his outer hitbox and an inner hitbox. So lobber EXs will deal double the normal damage to him. So in this case, that lobber EX at the opening of the gate did quad damage to him, and that's why he died so fast, even though he has a lot of health. Also, if you damage boost inside of him, your spread bullets and regular lobbers will also be hitting for double damage if you're like at the center of him. Also, once he dies, there's a hitbox that lingers around that you can just shoot for free to farm some cards. So you just as well make use of that time. The only time you don't want to shoot the Waffle as it's dying is if it's the 3rd minion, because if it's the 3rd minion, you want to be setting up a lobber trap in preparation for Bon Bon. Always prioritize setting up a lobber trap if you just killed the 3rd minion. Okay, there, the EX was a little bit late, but it's okay. Just going to damage boost the Cupcake right there. See, I kind of just set up a trap for him. Move left a little bit. Yeah, that was a little bit sketchy because I messed up my weapons, but you could see there, you could kind of spread EX and hover over the head a little bit as a little bit of a clutch ending. Gotta play some more fights out here, though, so you can see the openings to each minion. So far, we've had Candy Corn and Jawbreaker.
Here's a real high-class bout. And begin!
Okay, pinball. So what I like to do is just shoot lobbers till he gets close, then shoot spread. And then, as he moves away from you, instead of chasing him, switch to lobber. And only use lobber from there on. So just spread as about long as you can, then switch lobber. Okay, And what this does is it just times the ending so that he dies when he reaches the end of his path, which just makes him move off the arena quicker. What you don't want is him to turn around to the right. That means you miss some damage somehow. Also, like, if the balls are random, so if they're falling on you, you can convert some of these lobbers into flick lobbers just to dodge around the balls while still keeping up the lobber damage. Another really minor thing is, while overdamage doesn't carry over in this fight from minion to minion, overkilling a minion overkilling a minion can generate slightly more cards. So because I killed it with a lobber, which is a bigger hit, that means it could have generated a very, very, very slightly more amount of cards. Just damage boost the waffle. I did not mean to take that parry. Complete accident. But since I had an extra EX there, which I didn't need that parry for that extra EX, but that's one thing I want to point out, is if you have 2 HP or more, you're going into the third mini boss, and you have 2 cards. In that case, I believe I would have had those 2 cards just because of the mini bosses that I got. Even if, because I farmed the waffle really well. Like pinball into waffle or candy corn into waffle, especially if you farm a jelly bean with like a regular lobber shot, you can end up with 2 cards going into the last mini boss, and you can kind of do something similar to Goopy. What that we did with the quad setup, where you shoot an EX up, and in this case you just shoot another EX straight down, so that they both blow up at the same time. And this will set up a really fast kill on the last mini boss. There was a bit of a goofy one because I accidentally took a parry. You don't want to take the parries.
Here's a real high-class bout. And begin!
Okay, we got Waffle here. Now, Waffle can screw you over if he separates really early, but here he didn't. So if Waffle separates, you're typically losing quite a bit of time because he can't die while he's separated. So if he does separate, you just want to hit him as the best you can and then finish him off, and farm as many cards as you can, because if you do generate a ton of cards, you can go for that double EX thing I talked about a little earlier on the final mini boss, and that could save you some of the time back from the waffle first giving you that like separation move. Okay. Yeah, I could have done a double EX there, but honestly it wouldn't matter because I got Pinball anyways. It is possible to kill Pinball before he turns around the first time. Got jump block there. But it's extremely hard even with 2 EXs.
Here's a real high-class bout. It's on!
Alright, here's our last mini-boss opening. So for this guy, we're just going to keep shooting upright lobber EXs until he's going to jump this second time. And then we're going to set up a lobber trap for him. And you can dodge out of the way, but it's very slightly faster to just sit here and tank him and use spread shot. I like to do 1 lobber. Like, as he kind of jumps to the top, I like to buffer 1 lobber, shoot it, and then switch back to spread. And then I'm going to use this platform to get over here and set up a really high lobber. Mistimed that lobber slightly. Took a damage boost here to show what happens if you're 1 HP here. Okay, I got Jawbreaker, but if I got Waffle, just know that you might have to dash left to dodge the Waffle if you're at 1 HP. Just kind of get out of the way real quick. Watch out for the jelly beans. They can pop out on these longer death animations. And yeah, that's Bon Bon. All right, Wally Warbles. This is our first Mini Bomb and Luigi swap fight of the run. And one thing I want to say is, with this fight, this is one of the harder fights in the run to learn how to do properly for the most advanced strats. And that's the strats I'm going to be showing in this video. But if you do want to use just some nuke strats still, or no Luigi swap strats, I do recommend checking out some no major glitches runs and stuff, because you can still get pretty decent times, even without going for all these crazy mini bomb, EX, Luigi swaps and stuff. So I wouldn't feel ashamed for going for that stuff. This fight's just super hard, and it takes a while to learn. But with that being said, I will show you these advanced strats so that you can learn them if you want and once you're ready. So first thing, I'm going to go for Bullet here, and then I'm going to go up to Wally, let out a mini bomb, and I'm also going to hover on mini bomb a little bit to prepare for my next, to kind of prime the mini bomb for the next mini bomb Luigi swap EX. Then I'm going to back up to avoid Wally, because Wally at the start can either go up or down, and then it can either spit 4 eggs. If it does spit 4 eggs, they'll all be kind of delayed apart from each other, except for 2 of the eggs. 2 of the eggs will be fired almost back to back out of those 4. Wally can also do the finger gun instead of the 4 egg pattern. So Wally's going up and doing the finger gun. Now, if Wally goes up and does the finger gun, you want to get close. Don't do your EX immediately, but I'm going to wait a tiny bit. Like, let Wally start moving a tiny bit. And then I'm going to do a mini bomb Luigi swap EX. The reason I wait a tiny bit is I don't want to send Wally into its kind of next set of patterns, because those are not as favorable. But I do want to do this mini bomb Luigi swap EX on exactly this pattern, which is up and gun, just because it sets everything else up really nicely. After these mini bomb Luigi swap EXs, typically you're going to just stay on mini bomb, let out a mini bomb, hover the cooldown for about a quarter of it, to prime for your next one, your next Luigi swap mini bomb EX, and then you're going to switch to bullet. So here I'm just going to dodge the eggs, get this parry, and then immediately go for more of these. Now you don't have to do that damage boost I did. I like doing that on this pattern because it makes getting that parry convenient. But you also could just do one less mini bomb EX and just back up while using mini bombs and kind of get that parry bird and then dodge the feathers to preserve the HP. So you have some different options there. Okay, so you can do what I did there and do a bullet EX. Always Luigi. Just always assume Luigi swaps when I say like an EX move. So you could do a bullet EX to kind of clear out those birds. Ideally, you don't want it to kill the parry bird though, so you could either fire it early enough that the parry bird hasn't spawned in, or the yellow birds are actually slightly higher on the screen than the parry bird. So if you get the magic pixel, you can get the EX where it'll like go through the tops of the yellow birds and hit Wally and avoid killing the parry bird. That's the dream. Also, you want to let out a mini bomb before this phase dies, just to make use of your cooldown. Then, while this phase is dying, you can't hurt Wally. So what you want to do is 2 things. You want to hover on mini bomb as you're moving back into this position, but don't shoot. Just hover on mini bomb to refresh the cooldown so you have a mini bomb ready. Then get to the back of the screen to create space and aim towards the kind of near the top of the house. Really what we're going to be aiming at is the head of the baby bird, just because it's going to let our bullets do as much damage as possible. Then you're going to move in. You're going to let out that mini bomb. Also prime a mini bomb Luigi swap EX. And we're going to go for 2 of these. Now, I only went for 2 there because I didn't have very many cards to work with here. If I had over 2 cards at all, I would do a 3rd mini bomb EX here. If I had over 2 cards, so 2.1 cards and beyond, I would always do a 3rd mini bomb Luigi swap EX. But in this case, I killed a parry bird and I used a lot of EXs earlier, so I didn't have very many cards to work with. So what I'm going to do is when the eggs close in, I'm just going to damage boost. Take that parry. Finish off the baby bird. Now, I've been pausing to explain things, but this is the part of the run, one of the 2 spots where you actually want to pause on purpose. Actually, I guess you pause 3 times because of Grandpa Kettle. But yeah, you pause here on purpose because for whatever reason, when you kill the baby bird, while you can shoot the baby bird a little bit, the hitbox lingers. As you can see, this purple box is still there. It lingers for a little bit. It doesn't linger around that long. So we're going to keep shooting it with bullet for now. But we're also going to pause and unpause ASAP. Because what this does is it brings out the last phase quicker. You can also bring out the last phase quicker with a parry, but that's really hard to line up. So pretty much everyone just does a pause. And then this will bring out the last phase. And since I know the last phase is coming out really soon, I'm going to start moving into the left side of the screen and let out 2 mini bombs while I do so. And then immediately after letting out those 2 mini bombs, I'm going to do a press EX and weapon swap at the same time to just switch immediately over into bullet with an EX. And I'm going to do 2 of these bullet EXs right away every time. Now, Wally can move left or right, and then it could also do the garbage attack or the heart attack. The garbage attack is typically what you want to see, because when the heart attack happens, Wally's body becomes invulnerable. And you have to just, like, go after the heart. But in this case, I got the good RNG. So I'm going to just keep doing these EXs. And let out a mini bomb there, too. I knew I had a mini bomb kind of ready, so I kind of just went for that there. But yeah, let me play out some more fights here so you can see some more things going on. Without me having to do so many pauses. So we got a similar pattern here. Gonna just back up here. Do a couple of these. Let out that mini bomb. Gonna go down, get that parry. Refresh my mini bomb. Let it out there. Now here I still had just exactly 2 cards, so I'm gonna hold on to that. I'll take a double damage boost here because I have the HP. React to the heart there. Now, I had so many cards there. One thing I could have done is instead of doing 2 EXs and then looking for the heart to react to it, I could have just went ham and unloaded a 30X. The 30X would have been essentially wasted because I got the heart RNG, but I had so many cards it wouldn't have mattered. I would have had plenty of cards anyways. So that's one thing I could have done. You can see I almost generated the nuke there, and so if I had any more EX cards at all, I should have done the 3rd mini bomb EX on the baby bird, but I just wanted to demonstrate that exactly at 2 cards you could still avoid getting the nuke and just have tons of cards to unload some huge damage on the final phase. Here we go, some different RNG. So this pattern kind of sucks, up and eggs, because you're gonna have to kill some of these yellow birds. Also, Wally can troll you with a gun here. Gotta get some distance, aim for the head. Now here I have over 2 cards, so I'm gonna go for 3 EXs there. Damage boost in. Gonna go for 2. Okay, here with the heart, I can actually do this because I have the HP. Just to track it a little bit more efficiently.
This match will get red hot. You're up.
Okay, up and gun. So with this, I'm going to wait a tiny bit, do that EX. Again, you don't need to take these damage boosts. I'm just prioritizing high damage. Aim for the head, go in. I was over 2 cards at that point before the eggs closed in. Now here, I can't damage boost again. So what I'm gonna do is I kind of hovered mini bomb a bit just to buffer it some. And I didn't mean to let out that mini bomb, just the pause messed me up. But basically I would just hover mini bombs while the eggs are blocking me. And then move in. If you only have 1 HP, you can just escape out of the eggs and just use only mini bombs, and at least the splash damage will hit the baby. Now here you might have to clutch a dodge. You can mini plane in this exact little spot like I did there to dodge some of these projectiles as they're coming in. There's usually almost always a safe spot there. So if Wally's closing in on you like that, and you're at 1 HP, you can kind of clutch it out. And, you know, dodge it that way. But hopefully this is giving you a good idea, just playing through the fight a few times, kind of what I'm aiming for here. Okay, so down and gun's an interesting one. You can go for a mini bomb Luigi Swap EX right away to try to trigger some different RNG. I'm not going to get into all that because it's honestly really weird and finicky. Instead, you could just play the fight out. It is a bit of an unlucky RNG because these birds are going to be really annoying. Similar to the up and no gun RNG. Oh, I didn't mean to shoot that bird. Had less than 2 cards, so I'm only going to do 2 EXs. I'll just damage boost twice. You don't need to do that, though, if you don't want. You can just buff for a mini bomb, like I was saying earlier, and do 1 damage boost. And there we go. So yeah, that's shows you kind of some different RNG. This takes a long time to get used to, like just figuring out the positioning of those mini bomb EXs. Also trying to make good use of your mini bomb cooldown throughout the fight. You know, letting out the bombs when you need to, refreshing bombs when there's downtime, or priming the bombs when you know you're going to be going for a mini bomb Luigi Swap EX. Also, one thing I didn't mention, but on the feather phase, you can get anywhere between 1 and 4 ticks on the bullet EXs. Basically, the feather phase hitbox is super jank, so that can be a little bit weird. Random note too, if you do run this on newer patches, like 1.2 and beyond, there is some scuffed jank hitboxes that can appear, but thankfully, specifically when you kill the baby bird phase, there's like a glitched hitbox that can appear on the right side of the screen, and the final phase has like a glitched hitbox above the belly of Wally. Just some random stuff to be aware if you do run some newer patches, but thankfully on this patch you don't have to worry about any kind of terrible hitboxes. But yeah, that's Wally. Alright, so next up we have Djimmi. Now Djimmi is thankfully quite a bit easier than Wally. Because we're basically just going to be going for a whole bunch of bullet EXs with Luigi Swaps, of course. And yeah, there's nothing too crazy with this fight. So I just want to start off by shooting bullets, move up close, let out a mini bomb, and then kind of aim at Djimmi's head and be in between him and the left edge of the wall, so about where I'm at right now. And the reason is because if he does the cat's attack, we can bait it here. If he does the swords, we can dodge, or in the gems, we can back up and dodge. Now, we're going to be trying to get off, hopefully get 1 parry from whatever attack we get. Sometimes you can get screwed over and get no parries. If you can get 2 parries, that's awesome. So if we get 1 parry, we're going to do 3 EXs. If we get 2 parries, we're going to do 4 EXs. That's our goal here for phase 1. So here's the cats. So you want to bait the cat right there and then get under it. Take any parries if you get them. Get out those 3 EXs. Let out, because I've been doing a bunch of Luigi swaps, my mini bomb's almost ready. So I'm just going to let out that mini bomb. Also, you want to be close to Djimmi on all of these, just to reduce bullet travel time, so your bullets hit right away before he leaves. And there we go. That's phase 1. Now we want to ready our mini bomb, because one really important note about Djimmi is all of these phases, including this pillar phase coming up with the pillar faces that you destroy to open up passageways. All of this damage is like 1 big health bar. So all of this is like carrying over from phase to phase. And this is what's going to like allow us to kind of make super quick work of some of the phases, in particular the sarcophagus phase. Now, the gems attack is actually the best RNG. I'll be showing a video of that with the gems and like a really good fight in a bit to show what that looks like. But one reason the Djim's attack is typically good is because the Djim's is able to kind of end immediately, whereas the cats and the swords, like, it has a bit of an animation where even if you kind of killed, quote-unquote, killed phase 1, he'll stay in phase 1 a little bit longer with those attacks. And this just makes the fight play out in such a way that you end up with, like, a slower phase 1, but more overdamage, and that more overdamage way later on when we reach the puppet means that you'll probably not get a second parry from the puppet because the puppet will die too soon because of all the overdamage from earlier. Whereas if with the Djim's, sometimes you'll get to basically get that second parry from the puppet. So it's just like some different, like slightly different ways the fight plays out based off this phase 1 RNG, just because of the way the damage carries over. But yeah, because overdamage is such a big thing here, one thing we're going to be looking to do is maximizing the damage on these pillars. And to do so, we're going to be doing an overdamage setup where we do exactly 5 regular bullets and then a mini bomb. This will get the absolute maximum overdamage here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then mini bomb. You can use mini plane to kind of move around. Now, I do some different setups here. I'm going to explain these setups a little bit more in detail when we go over the video, just because it's easier to kind of showcase and show some different visual cues. But yeah, I'll explain these, what I'm doing with my mini bomb while I'm firing these off after a bit. But basically, I'm just setting up my cooldown in a convenient way, and I'm going to be timing a bullet EX here. I'll explain these timings later in the video just because it'll be easier to show. But for now, I'll just play it through to give you an idea what it looks like. I'm going to position here, get ready for this phase, let out this bullet EX, get a mini bomb off. Nice, got a 4-tick. Then I had a mini bomb prep there as well. I let out that mini bomb. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep up bullet DPS, and then as Djimmi is like going to go away, some of my bullets will miss, and during that moment, I'm going to quickly switch to mini bomb and back to bullet just to buffer a kind of a mini bomb cooldown to prep for a mini bomb Luigi swap EX after a bit, because some of my bullets will be missing anyways. Like this. And I'm going to bait this hat up here and then stay against the back. As the puppet starts to move backwards, that's my cue to start moving in. And I'm immediately going to go for 2 mini bomb EXs here. The 4th shot's always going to be a parry, so I'm going to want to get that parry and then do another EX. So the puppet's supposed to keep shooting. Just know the puppet's supposed to keep shooting. I guess pausing there broke it. That's super weird. That's not useful. Just don't pause there, apparently. He's supposed to keep shooting. If that wouldn't have made a difference, just stay close and let out your mini bombs, kill him, and then do what I did there for the ending. Kind of prep a mini bomb, create space to the left as you're waiting for the last phase to enter in, then move close, let out a mini bomb, and do a bunch of bullet EXs to finish off the fight. That was super bizarre. He's supposed to shoot a few more bullets before he dies there. But like I said, it wouldn't have changed the outcome. I guess just pausing breaks the fight a little bit, which is pretty silly, at least with the debug mod on here. That was pretty funny. I think I'll leave that in the tutorial just because that was pretty wacky. But yeah, I'm going to show how to proper fight here. And yeah, let's open that up. All right, so I'm pulling up a video of my 116 Djimmi fight to kind of explain some of these other visual cues and what I was doing with the mini bombs and stuff, because it'll just be easier to explain in this video. I apologize when I recorded this video. I had the wrong input display up, but at least I had the input display up earlier for that part of the tutorial. So you can see I'm doing the same thing. Let out that mini bomb at the start. Go for these EXs. Grab the parries. If you can get 2 parries, that's awesome. Wasn't able to get off another card there, but I got the mini bomb. Really good damage here. Going for 5 bullets and a mini bomb on each of these. Using mini plane just to help maneuver around. While also kind of making sure to refresh my mini bomb cooldown to have it ready for each pillar. And then we're going to get to this bit here. So one thing I like to do, and I actually got this set up from SPD Wolf, is he likes to let out 2 mini bombs. Now, these mini bombs aren't hitting anything, and the purpose is just to get your brain locked into the rhythm of the mini bomb. Because what I want is I want to switch to bullet as a mini bomb is like 80% cooled down. So it's not like the mini bomb's ready. It's just like almost ready. And the reason is because we're going to position back here. And as Djimmi starts to grab his other arm, we're going to go for a Luigi swap bullet EX. And the thing is because we hover mini bomb a tiny bit, we don't want a mini bomb to pop out here and be wasted. Instead, we want it to perfectly ready a mini bomb so that when we get close, our mini bomb will be ready and we can make use of it. So we're going to get this EX off. And then we have that. I'm going to quickly swap the mini bomb and back to bullet. And then we could get off that mini bomb right away. Just finish Djimmi off there. Now we're going to do a similar ID here, but slightly different. So what I like to do is, as you can kind of see, Djimmi is like hopping here. I want to explain this cue. I kind of imagine that when he would be doing a hop, because he kind of hops in rhythm, when he'd be doing this kind of like last hop off screen, I start shooting mini bombs. And then right before this last mini bomb fires off, I'm going to shoot a bullet EX. And the goal of that is to try to get this Luigi swap to hit Djimmi for 4 ticks. Now, if you fire this too early, it'll just miss entirely, or maybe just hit for fewer ticks. But yeah, you can get a 4-tick EX here if you do that timing. And also, because I switched to bullet right before the mini bomb came out, that means that I have a mini bomb ready here, and I let it out right there. I let out that mini bomb. You see this mini bomb? I just kind of quickly swapped over again and let out that mini bomb. Then what I'm going to do is get some damage in here with bullet. And then when this hand pulls the puppet up, there's like a brief moment where you're not going to be able to get much damage in. So during this moment, I'm going to just, you can see I swapped the mini bomb and then back to bullet. And what this is because I'm going to be going for a mini bomb Luigi swap EX soon. And I want my mini bomb to be primed. It's almost like the plane level version of a G swap. I'm just priming that mini bomb because we're going to be going for that soon. Then I'm going to go up here, kind of aiming towards like the head or neck of the puppet. And this is to bait this hat up. And then if you go under the hat against the left side of the screen, the hat won't come down and hit you. Then once the puppet starts moving to the right again, that's my cue to move in. I'm going to go straight for a mini bomb EX here. Let out a mini bomb. Also prime for another mini bomb Luigi swap EX. Then the 4th shot from the gun will be a parry. So I'm going to grab that. Sometimes he could troll you and delay this parry, so you kind of have to try to react to it. And then I'm going to do a 3rd mini bomb EX here. You can see too, this is what this phase normally looks like. He's supposed to keep shooting. Now, I had a lot of really high DPS there. So he wasn't able to get off that last parry, but sometimes, depending on how the RNG and how the fight plays out, sometimes he'll shoot a second parry there, and it's okay to kind of grab that parry and then just make sure to use up your cards before you reach 5. Also, if you have a mini bomb almost ready, make sure to use it there, and then prime a mini bomb here. Create space while you're waiting on the last phase to come in, and then get this this bullet off here. Then you're just gonna spam Luigi swaps, making sure to let out a mini bomb, because you're kind of prepping a mini bomb right there. I did let out the mini bomb during the Luigi swap, so this played out pretty well. And yeah, there's the fight. So let me show this in real time to kind of give you an idea. So I have that mini bomb ready from that little timing setup I did earlier. I'm imagining these hops. There was an off-screen hop. It's kind of like, honestly, it's a super arbitrary cue that I use there to try to time that, but it kind of works for me imagining him hopping off-screen. So you might have to come up with your own visual cue, one that makes more sense for your head to time it, but I figured I'd share at least what I do. I could have also held back that last mini bomb to try to bait that last projectile. I don't think it would have made a difference there, but sometimes you can do that. But yeah, there's the fight without anything crazy going on this time. Gonna showcase just swords real quick. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I figure I'll show it off real quick. So your swords. Usually there's a parry. Sometimes you get trolled and there's not. Just kind of dodge them. And yeah, I'm gonna play through the fight another time without the pauses. Try to get those 5 bullets in and then the mini bomb. Nice, we got kind of double head. Okay. Setting up that mini bomb for this Luigi swap. But the bomb's ready right here. Gonna do this jank arbitrary timing. Only got a 3 ticker that time, but that's okay. 3 ticks still good. Quick weapon swap there just to prep this mini bomb. Going in, gonna do 2 of these, then get a parry. He delayed it that time. Prep a mini bomb there, and now go for some Luigi swaps to finish it off. Also, don't be too close to him here. If you're right against him, your bullet EXs won't get the full 4 ticks. So just a minor note there. But yeah, that's Djimmi. All right, next up we have a big one. We've got Beppi the Clown. Now, with Beppi, we're going to be doing a skip called Beppi Skip. And essentially how the skip works is if you do so much damage in Beppi's phase 1 that you've over-damaged so much that you've killed his phase 2 before his phase 1 is ended, it will glitch the fight out, and ideally what will happen is in phase 2, Beppi will be in a glitched phase 2 state, and he'll never leave that phase or state, and you could just keep shooting him until his entire health bar is depleted. Now, setting this up is quite difficult, but I'm going to hopefully give you all some good tips and stuff of ways you can kind of go about this, and also some ways of dealing with some of the more difficult patterns. Now, I will say I'm not going to show off how to fight the phase 3 and phase 4 if you do miss the skip. Basically, just set the lobber traps for stuff and shoot it down. You can watch some NMG, No Major Glitches speedruns if you do want to see the later phases of the Beppi fight, just to learn them for backup. Because early on, you probably will be missing the skip quite a bit. It is a tough one, but the skip saves like 20 seconds. So it's definitely a very significant thing worth learning. So what I recommend is on your RNG control, if you have it, go to Beppi the Clown, phase 1 bumper delays regular, and do 3B++. In my opinion, this is probably the easiest pattern, and so it's going to be a good one to learn on to just start being able to get the skip. Now later on, you'll want to switch to random, or if you really want, you could practice these different patterns. What these patterns represent is how many times he scoots before he charges. Basically, it starts at, like, in this case, it starts at 3B++, and then it just scrolls through. So it'll be 3B++, which is like 3 scoots plus a little more. 5 scoots, and then 4 scoots plus a tiny bit more of time before he charges. This just gives you like a nice window to kind of adjust into things and get used to stuff. So it is a good pattern to learn on. I personally haven't memorized all these patterns. I kind of have played the fight enough that I recognize a bunch of them when I see them. But I typically just practiced on random for the most part. But I think for initially learning, I was thinking this is probably a good place to start. So let's get into it. So right off the bat, you're just going to fire some lobbers. Upright lobbers, just in case he scoots back, because straight right lobbers will miss if he scoots back really far. Now there he's charging. So one goal that I have is I want to clear out all these ducks with lobbers. Now, you can use spread to clear out the ducks, but the lobbers generate more cards, and cards is quite important here. Because we don't want to overdamage Beppi into phase 2, we're going to be trying to deal a specific amount of damage to him. And also, because we need to deal a lot of damage in a small window to trigger the glitch phase, we want to generate 3 cards. Now, sometimes you can get lucky and you can get Skippy the Duck, which is just the name of a parry duck. And if you get that, you can get 3 cards easier. But otherwise, you need your damage to be pretty spot on, especially on some of the more difficult patterns. So the extra card generation from shooting lobbers to clear out the ducks will actually help us with all our goals. Help us from avoiding overdamage while still generating cards, and also help us have those cards so we can do 3 EXs to finish off Beppi. So yeah, you're just going to jump over Beppi, clear these ducks out. You can shoot a little spread if you want. You can also do this phase entirely with lobber. This fight is also an awesome, but also quite difficult training ground for flick lobbers. If you're having a hard time with the flick lobbers here, further into the tutorial when we get to Werner Werman, he might be a better spot to practice your flick lobbers in a more difficult scenario. But I'm just going to show here how to go about Beppi. So immediately I'm seeing the second duck with a light bulb. The light bulbs can really mess you over, so I'm going to immediately deal with this duck. In general, I'm going to always deal with these ducks, take the parry, or shoot the duck with the lobber on this part. Because this is still what I would consider like the setup part of the Beppi glitch. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get to here. So if you see my card count, I've killed 2 ducks and hit Beppi a bunch. I have 1.5 cards. This is the spot. This is the visual cue I use, 1.5 cards, to stop DPS. Now, the reason I stop DPS is I want to set up a lobber trap to hit Beppi a bunch, but as he charges in, some of these lobbers will hit right away, and if I've done too much damage, it will actually trigger his phase to end, and that's not what we want. We want him to stay in phase 1 longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start setting up lobbers lobber trap the best I can. There's so much variance here, I don't really have a visual cue or anything. I just kind of set up like a bread and butter lobber trap. I also like to start this trap pretty far to the right like I am here. And I also like to move forward a little bit after each lobber trap, just a tiny bit. The reason I do that is because there will be a third duck that's going to be coming on screen. And especially if it has a light bulb, it can really block multiple lobbers and mess up your lobber trap. But by setting up lobbers in a staggered way, it'll kind of prevent that from happening, because your furthest back lobber or furthest to the right lobber will kind of clear out the duck, and then you won't have to worry about it. So like this. Now, what I did there was something a little more advanced. I'm going to show an alternate setup later. So you can see I didn't do a dash there. I just simply set up lobbers as I went, and then kind of did a flick lobber as I jumped around him. You could also just dash there. I'll show that later. But anyways, so at this point, this is what we want. We did not trigger Beppi into the next phase yet, but as you can see, we are already, because of our lobber trap, we're already past the kind of phase 2 barrier. So I'll use the pointer here. You can see the barriers for the phases. We're already technically past phase 1, but because he started another scoot attack, he's going to play out this entire pattern before actually trying to go into phase 2. So this is what I would consider go mode. Now, in this mode, you're gonna want to be around where I am, and you're gonna want to go for a lobber EX right away. Now, if you get hit, it's okay. Sometimes you can do some cheeky sidesteps and avoid getting hit some and preserve some HP, but this is more advanced. So getting hit twice here is pretty standard. I'm looking for him hopefully to scoot back at some point, and then that's when I'm going to get my second EX off. Like that. Now, at this point, the third EX is an important one. The first two you could basically just fire off as soon as you find an opening to try to get that double damage lobber EX. Also, minor note, I'm using a half delay Calva swap. This is technically not the absolute most optimal way to do the damage, but because Beppi has so much variance, and I like to do these little like stutter steps and stuff to try to preserve HP sometimes or to track him, I like to focus on my movement more than focusing on optimizing like 1 or 2 more points of damage out of my weapon cooldown management. So just a simple half delay, normal Calva swap, just to set up a lobber for the next Calva swap is all I do. That being said, the third EX is a little bit of a special one because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking for Beppi to start to charge, and then that's immediately when I'm going to do the third EX. So like that. Now there immediately after the EX, I had to jump over Beppi to avoid dying. You do have to kind of get used to that and getting used to tracking with spread. It takes some time. But here you can see, if you look at the top, I have technically killed phase 2. I crossed over this extra barrier, so this will trigger the skip. Now, there's essentially three different ways that three main ways that you could trigger the skip. If you trigger the skip sooner than what I just did, so let's say I went for that 30x right away instead of waiting for him to kind of rear back before he charges. If I did it sooner than that, you'll get what's called like, I don't know, the floating Beppi or like soft lock Beppi. He'll basically, in the glitch phase, he'll appear in the sky, sometimes too far for you to even reach, and in general, it's a massive time loss. Sometimes you literally can't even complete the fight. So you don't want to trigger him before that point of when he's about to do his final charge, essentially, across the screen. Now, if you trigger it right when he's revving up the charge, like where I triggered it here, you'll get the optimal kill, or optimal skip, which is called the low hanger. Basically, in phase 2, his head will just appear lower on the screen. And because he's lower on the screen, that means that you can track him with your bullets better. It allows you to basically get more damage more easily. Then there's kind of like the regular Beppi skip, and this happens when you trigger him after the charge has already started. So he revs up the charge, he starts charging, and any point from there on, if you trigger the skip, he'll just appear in his normal position on the screen, which is fine. It's really not that bad. And on some of the patterns, that's the best you can get because you don't get much time in the last phase. This pattern in particular that I recommended to you all, it ends on a 4 bounce plus, so you have quite a bit of time to actually try to set up the skip for the low hanger. So yeah, once that's and I'll come back and talk about this phase a little bit more, some of the other specific patterns, but this is the idea. Also, it's worth noting that purple hitbox is Beppi. His hitbox lingers here for quite a bit. On future patches, it doesn't, but on this 1.1.5 and before, this hitbox does linger. So make sure you shoot it with spread shot. Also, if you generated your third card a little bit late, or you just hadn't had time to get off your 30x, or maybe you had 4 EXs because of a parry, feel free to unload that last EX at this moment right here on the ground, because you can't hit Beppi's lingering hitbox. Sometimes this comes in really clutch to get the skip when it would have otherwise been super difficult. If there's any ducks, take the parries if there are parries. If it's yellow ducks, shoot them with lobbers because you have a little bit of time. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking for Beppi to rise up off the ground. And right here, when his head kind of crosses up above the wooden platform in the background, that's when I'm going to jump and shoot a peak lobber. And then I'm going to go into kind of a bread and butter lobber trap. Like this. You could take the parry on the train. It's always convenient. Now this phase is quite difficult, as you can see. I was thinking about explaining a bunch of stuff, so I'll play through another Beppi skip here to kind of give you an idea. Also, let me get that pointer off screen.
This match will get red hot.
Especially going into that phase with 1 HP, it can be quite tricky. And as you go on, like you can basically play the thing more risky or a little more safe at first. So you can see I actually over-generated cards here a little bit, so there's a chance I over-damage him. I got lucky here in the way my lobber trap landed, so that didn't happen. Alright. We're going to set up this lobber trap, try it again. This time I have an extra HP I was able to preserve by doing those kind of back and forth that I was talking about. Now, sometimes you can also use a lobber EX to clear out nearby dogs. That can sometimes come in clutch. Otherwise, you want to prioritize spread EXs. And yeah, you kind of just gun him down, taking the parries as you get them. And that's the Beppi fight. So that phase is pretty simple, although it's a very improv-heavy phase, and as you saw me die to it earlier, it is pretty easy to die to it, especially at 1 HP. Now, I had 2 HP there, so I could play pretty aggressively, and I could even tank a hit to gain more damage if I wanted, but a lot of times, especially early on, you're probably only going to get there with 1 HP, so just get good at dodging the dogs. If you do have to dodge out of the way or shoot down some dogs, sometimes that's what you need to do. Or like I said, use some lobber EXs to use the splash damage to kind of blow up the nearby dogs. Similar actually to like if you think of the carrot fight, how we use the lobber EXs to blow up the mini carrots. You could do the same thing here. Otherwise, yeah, just prioritize spread EXs and kind of work on that. Now, the Beppi skip in general is quite difficult, and it is going to take you some time to get used to managing your lobber, so you're not just like wasting lobber shots all over the place. And also, you want to make sure you're sniping those ducks to generate the cards. Be careful about the over damage so you don't accidentally make his phase 1 end early. But yeah, I do want to show quickly the dash strat. So once he charges back to the right, you can dash over him instead of doing this more difficult lobber movement that I'm doing. So I want to show that variation. So something like that. Also, you can start your lobber trap a little bit earlier if you ended on a parry duck like that. It's kind of cool. Another cool thing is you can use like up right or up left, basically diagonal EXs to push you in directions you want to go. Sometimes this can help with your movement while still getting off the EXs. At first, just getting a sub 50-second Beppi is a really good spot to be. It does take a bit to start getting, the 45s or lower. It's quite difficult. But this pattern is one of the easier patterns to work with. So the next thing I'd recommend is practicing some different patterns. So here's a good one, this 3B down here. This gives you 2 really short starts into a really long ending. This is actually pretty much the optimal RNG for like the fastest times, but it's kind of difficult because you don't have much setup time, so you're gonna feel very rushed with this pattern. Not gonna get quite as good of a lobber trap either. Oops, missed the parry there. Kind of silly. But yeah, you can get really good times on this pattern. Oops, got a nothing EX. Kind of sloppy on my swap timing there. But yeah, that was a pretty sloppy fight for me, and still a 43. So this RNG is incredible, but it is quite difficult. Like I said, you're gonna feel rushed in the earlier part of the fight. So this is kind of a good one to get the feel of those rushed fights. Now, another pattern that's going to be very difficult for a completely different reason, and this brings up another point I want to talk about with skip, is if you go here on this 5B, 4B plus, 5B plus, do this 5B, and this is essentially a very slow pattern. It's a bad pattern, it's very slow, and if you remember earlier, I told you there was 3 ways to trigger the skip, and one of them could make a fight basically incompletable. This is one of those patterns. It's very easy to overdamage. So I'm going to show you what happens if I don't hold back DPS. I'm still only going to do 2 Lobber X's, waiting for the third for when he revs up. You see I'm already at a card and a half, so I already have to stop here. DPS there. So I'm only going to do 2 EXs, but watch what happens. See that? So I only did 2 EXs, because that's my normal setup. I do 2 EXs, I wait for him to rev back, and then I'm going to do the third EX. But here, just the 2 EXs alone was enough to trigger the skip way early, and this is what happens. So I'm going to set up my Lobber Trap, and Beppi's gone. Yeah, I can't even hit him. He's so far off screen. So this is actually a pretty good pattern eventually to practice. Once you're comfortable with the Beppi skip, this could be a good pattern to practice. I know it's one I worked on. And I'll show you kind of what you can do if you recognize that you're getting this pattern. One of these extremely slow extended patterns. So I still like to do the same opening and everything. But basically after my 2 EXs, if he's still scooting, and I have this slow of a phase, I'm going to recognize right about now that I'm in danger. So I'm going to do this. And set up the skip that way. Now this kind of can be very hard to recognize. And depending on how Beppi's scooting, like what directions he's scooting, like left or right, this can be difficult to make work, but it's kind of an important backup to know, so you don't just always soft lock on this pattern. Still was able to get a 45 there with this, which is pretty solid. So yeah, that's kind of the tricky part is obviously eventually you're going to want to practice this on random and just feeling out, like even this pattern, like 5B, 3B plus 5B, this is another one of those ones that's going to be kind of a little bit prone to this. But this pattern in particular, this 5B, 4B plus, 5B plus, so starting here, this one in particular is very infamous for accidentally dealing too much damage too soon and soft locking. So I also want to go over one more pattern here. Actually, I just realized I should cover is something like this is a really rough pattern. So this 5B pattern, so 5B, 4B plus, 2B plus, this is going to be really difficult because at the end, you're not going to have very much time. This is one of the patterns where it's easiest to miss the skip entirely, like you just don't deal enough damage on it. Because you get a lot of time here that you don't really need. And then this is the kind of the go mode part where you need time and you don't get much of it. So that's really tough. As you can see, I barely was able to get that third card in time. And I had to use my third Lobber EX on the lingering hitbox to trigger the skip just in time. And of course, I'm not able to get the, I'm not able to get the low-hanging Beppi. So I get that this is like the normal Beppi skip, like normal hanging Beppi. And I got that because I triggered the skip very late. But you can play out the fight. Take damage boost if you have the HP, and finish it up. He's still 45. But yeah, this is another pattern that's difficult for different reasons. So yeah, there's essentially a few different circumstances you'll find yourself in, and they all have varying degrees of difficulty. Also, watch out for triples. If you notice a Lobber EX that's extra loud, and it was kind of close to Beppi, or pretty dang close to Beppi, that might be a triple. And sometimes that might, especially if you have like a longer pattern, that might spook you out, and you might want to hold back damage a little bit and do what I did on that one fight where I backed up and I just set up a Lobber Trap for him. So that way I didn't trigger the skip too early or anything. So yeah, that's Beppi. It's a tough fight. At first, you're not gonna get the skip all the time. It's gonna take some time. It could be a pretty heavy reset point. If you're at the point in your runs though where you're accepting missing Beppi skip, I recommend looking up no major glitches runs, as I said earlier. The only difference I would change about the no major glitches way is on the last phase of Beppi. You could do some diagonally down lobber EXs on the ground next to Beppi's last phase to just get more damage. And do like a extended delay if you really want to optimize the weapon cooldowns. Or just a half delay to make it simpler on your Calva swaps. All right, next up we have Grim Matchstick. Now, Grim is a fight where I'm just going to give you some general understanding of the fight and some tips, as it's an extremely improv-heavy fight. So because you're going to have to improvise so much to get good at this fight means you're just going to have to play it a lot and kind of get used to dealing with it. The main reason for this being is outside of the first few clouds, the rest are incredibly random. You might start to notice some similar shapes and formations, but it's very random and hard to deal with. But that being said, I can give you some ideas of mainly your card management, when to use your EXs. And I'm kind of going to start with kind of the easiest level of the good strats. And it's also the strats you'll use if you take some accidental points of damage, so you can't damage boost at the ending. And then I'll show like the more and then the most advanced ways of going about using your cards and HP. So you can kind of work up into that after you are more confident with your improvisational skills, dealing with the clouds and the patterns. But yeah, right off the bat, one thing I want to say is Grim's always going to start off with 2 to 3 sets of eye lasers. If he does the third set of eye lasers, you're very often going to get his like sub phase 2 patterns where he can give you like a regular meteor and a double meteor, or the 1 or 2 sets of the 4 lasers. But if he starts off with 2 meteors, as long as you don't go crazy with the EX moves, you hold back your EXs until around when the tail's going to pop out, then that means that you're going to get either a 3 meteor or a 4 meteor pattern for phase 1. Now, in general, what I like to do is I try to, most of the time, avoid using EX moves until around when the first tail's gonna pop out or it's already about to pop out. And then I'm going to probably try pretty quickly to use at least a second EX, but most of the time 3 EXs in phase 1. You could try to use them when they're convenient to help you keep up good spread damage, or to hover to a difficult to reach cloud. But outside of that, you're just gonna want to just keep up damage the best you can.
Good day for us.
And don't use any more cards than 3. The reason being is you're gonna want to have some cards for later in the fight. It is good though to use some of these EXs in phase 1, as they're pretty efficient because you're able to use them close range against Grim with spread shot and stuff. So they're very efficient. The EXs we might end up using in the phase 2, like the phase with the jumping flames. Those aren't quite as efficient, but those can be useful too, and I'll talk about that once we get to it. But yeah, just to start this off, you're gonna just hold upright and jump, wait a little bit, and then let in 3 lobbers. I like to let in like 3.5 lobbers ish, just to have my lobber cooldown ready to do my first Calva swap. Then you're just gonna have to mess with this opening and figure out the times when you're able to keep up spread really well, or when you need to switch to lobber. Just anytime you're gonna have to back off, obviously switch to lobber, or you're getting too far away from Grim, you could switch to lobber, or you're just like way too high up. Sometimes you could switch to lobber as well. So lobber is gonna be fill in all the gaps where you can't get good full spread damage. Here's up here. In this case, with these clouds, I'm going to let out a few lobbers there. go for EX. Now there I got really screwed over on clouds. So I kind of just dashed forward to, because I knew I was just going to get hit anyways. So I just kind of took the loss and went for it. And with these first strats I'm going to show you, they are the no damage boost version. So this is kind of like okay. Even in a good fight though, sometimes you're just going to get screwed over by clouds and you're just going to have to take the hit. You could sometimes play it more cautiously and stay back with Lobber a lot more. But at that point, it can cost you time just by using Lobber a lot more than Spread. So it's a lot of like just difficult decision making, and you kind of just gotta go with what you chose. So and make the best of it. Yeah, you can see me using the EXs when they're convenient, and I try to get a third EX off there. Now, ideally, you do not want to get that second tail. My DPS wasn't great there, so I actually did get a second tail, but you want to skip that. So for phase 2, you want to, as you can see, get on the highest cloud that's pretty far back, and then jump and set an up left kind of lobber trap, sort of, like an angled lobber trap, so that it hits Grim. Now, one thing I want to point out is, let me turn on the hitboxes here. This is such a mess to even look at. But these kind of darker red boxes, so this box here and this box here more up front is where you can actually hit Grim. This here, like his kind of mouth. This part in the middle, he has no hitbox where you can hit him. So if you shoot an up left lobber at a bad angle, it can actually, funny enough, fall directly in between the boss and not hit him. That's something that's really easy to miss, not notice. So it's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. You can prevent that by making sure that you're further back when you set the lobber trap, so that it will for sure hit the top of the mouth. Or if just how the clouds play out, you're up closer. You know, you could try to be like more close to him, and it'll hit the body. Now the body's a bit higher up, so you can't get as early of a lobber trap sideways timing there. And as far as like the timing of when to time it, you're just gonna have to feel it out, because it's gonna always just change based on what clouds you have access to. If you have a really high cloud, you could start the lobber trap a little bit sooner because you're really high up. Especially high up and far back, that's the dream. Like, this cloud was actually pretty good. Yeah. Also, it is important to know Grim in this phase doesn't become damageable on this patch until, like, he's kind of extends his tongue out or whatever. So you can't just, like, instantly hit him as soon as he comes on screen, and that's kind of why I delayed it the way that I did. Let me get this for this hitbox mess here. Now, in this phase, you're just going to try to dodge flames and use lobbers. You could also make use of jumping to help yourself. Like, the clouds will keep moving left, but you'll stay in position, which can kind of help you keep you in a good spot. You could also do flick lobbers to accomplish the same goal. Now, if you use... kind of an important note is for these early strats, I'm going to recommend that you go for 5 EX moves until phase 2 is completely dead. So until this phase is dead, you want to have used 5 EX moves. Now, you could divide those up in phase 1 and 2 how you like. Like I said, I like doing 3 in phase 1. And so you could do 2 in phase 2 for now. Now, there is going to be a more advanced strat where we're only going to do 3 EXs in phase 1 and none in this phase, which is a little more difficult because you got to do more flick lobber management as well. And be careful, like, this is another spot it's easy to lose time. If you're not spot on with your flick lobbers, sometimes when you're, like, letting go of shoot to reposition and flick lobber, you can lose some time because you're not, like, shooting each lobber as soon as it's ready. It's just another one of those optimizations to be aware of. Also, the really low clouds, you can get hit by the flames. So this cloud down here, for example, is not safe. If I stood on this, I would get hit by the flame. I could still make use of this cloud by going in between the flames just momentarily and jumping. But yeah, typically you're not going to have to worry about that too much because with lobber, it has such a good trajectory for this fight that you could kind of just use lobber. So okay, that's fine. So yeah, you're gonna get what spread damage on him that you can there, and then you're just gonna back off and use Lobber. Use your Lobber EXs as you get them, and then Grim should be dead. Now there, I kind of reverted to my normal strat for the transition. I held on to my EXs a bit longer than what I'd recommend. I'll play the fight out one more time to try to demonstrate a little bit of a better, cleaner fight of that. It's also worth noting his hitboxes are really jank. The hitbox reader on this fight is a little weird because it doesn't read the clouds really well. But I'm gonna play this fight out with the hitboxes on this time, so you can kind of get an idea of how these hitboxes shift, especially in the phase 2 to phase 2 last phase transition. But yeah, you'll see the detectors for the clouds don't really work too well, unfortunately, on the mod. Oh yeah, that's another thing. So for baiting this first tail, because the first tail is going to pop out once you've done enough damage, there's two ways I like to do it. I either like to bait it really close like this, usually using an EX to just kind of hover right next to Grim so the tail's super close. And this allows me to do this, where I keep up spread shot and stay close to the tail while still being back and able to dodge the meteors. Now, there's another way I'll show later, where you basically stand further back and bait the tail, and then you dodge Grim by being up really close, but it requires a bit of a risky EX if Grim does the meteors. So I'll try to show that on next attempt. So there, what happened is I forgot to use my third EX, and my damage was a little bit sloppy because of all the pausing and stuff. So Grim kind of just smacked me with the tail. It's kind of a bad fight, but I'm going to play it out just to show these hitboxes. Yeah, these purple boxes are what's actually damageable. Okay, so a good visual cue, if you've used 5 EXs in phase 1 or phase 2, then basically as you get it, or right after you get your 6th card, is when Grim's going to be doing the transition here. But yeah, you'll notice that his back hitbox completely disappeared, so it's really easy. You can see I have a Lobber to the left because I didn't prepare for this phase transition well enough. That Lobber over there on the far left is missing Grim entirely. So, and also this hitbox, like, look how just weird it is. It, like, shifts forward a lot more. Like, it shifts forward a bit of where it used to be on his mouth, and yeah, basically it doesn't make any sense, and you just have to, it is what it is. And then there, his body kind of shifts in. Then on this part, when the head starts spinning, his hitbox updates again, and also these heads become active and can start hitting you. So this is all just kind of good stuff to know. But yeah, in this phase, you're just going to go with flick lobbers. You're going to try to stay up as high as possible, as often as you can, just because this will help your lobbers get over the fireballs. Because you ideally don't want to trigger the fireballs. But yeah, this is basically just use flick lobbers, use the EXs, and keep going. Use your EXs as you get them. And once you generate that last card there, you're just gonna, finish them off. So yeah, that's kind of like the gist of the fight. These were some kind of rough fights as I was trying to explain everything, but hopefully that gives you an idea with the hitboxes. I recommend turning on the hitbox viewer with Control H if you have it on your debugger, and just studying the hitboxes because they are really bizarre and not obvious at all. They're just basically random. Like, they're consistently always in the same spot, but like where the developers decided to place them feels random. Yeah, there I was able to skip that top cloud because I had a cloud to jump over to, and this allowed me to keep up spread. Now this time I'm going to try to bait the tail further back to show what that looks like. Now I got really trash clouds, so let me try to get a better demonstration. I was trying to force that strat, but all these strats depend on the clouds that you're given. and sometimes it just doesn't work out. Yeah, you could do this. So if you bait the tail further back like that, you could stay up really close, and if it's meteors, because you don't know if a meteor is going to go up or down, it's essentially a 50-50. And then once that meteor's about to pop, you could kind of jump up like I did and do a downright lobber EX to hover, kind of get over the meteor while still keeping up DPS on Grim. This is a bit risky because sometimes there's just not going to be a cloud here, and you can't really see ahead of time most of the time if there will be one. So you're kind of just YOLOing and hoping that you get a cloud. So this is a bit of a riskier strat, but it does often net you a tiny bit more spread DPS. Either strat's good. I usually go for the close tail rather than this kind of middle of the screen tail, or almost middle of the screen. But you can mess with it and see which one you like best, or, you know, ideally get good at both and use whichever one's better for the situation. So I've used 3 EXs. Now, this is kind of like not the best RNG. You want Grim to stay in phase 1 longer, so if he gave me a 4th meteor there, I could have got a lot more over damage, which would have been nice, but he didn't do it. We're gonna get some lobbers here. Use these EXs as convenient. Now, I know the transition's coming, so I'm already... Because I know that transition's coming, I'm already kind of preemptively getting myself into position. Now, at first, you could just hit this thing with lobber, but as you get better, you could try to use some spread and then flick lobber as the cloud gets too close. You could also use EXs. There's lots of different ways you can kind of damage this transition. Did that EX a little bit too early. Okay, so here. So, in this situation, I've used 6 EXs, and I've generated my 7th EX. As soon as you've generated your 7th EX, if you have 3 HP, you can just go in. I'm actually could have damage boosted in a little bit sooner. You can see I've already started to generate on my 8th card. But in this case, you could just go in, use a spread EX, get hit a couple times, and then finish with a spread EX. Like that. And that gets you a good ending on 3 HP. If you have 2 HP, you could do the same thing, but damage boost in is 7.5 cards deep into the fight. So in that situation, if you've been using all your EXs, I would have 1.5 cards visually. And then I could damage boost in and just use 2 spread EXs quickly. This obviously is a little bit risky, but you'll kind of get used to it. One of the hardest things to deal with is just getting hit by Grim and actually landing on clouds behind Grim, and also kind of getting used to where his actual damageable hitbox is, because you mainly want to aim for the body in the back as kind of your main thing. So yeah, I think that would be like the next stage of this fight, is getting good enough to preserve 3 HP for the ending on some of your attempts, because sometimes you're just going to get screwed over by RNG. But when you can preserve 3 HP, going in for that double damage boost is a really good way to do it. I'll play that method out one more time, and then I'll show like kind of the most advanced way using a video demonstration or a recording of mine. So yeah, I'll try this again. Now here, I didn't have a good cloud. There probably was some way for me to dodge that, but I just took a hit. So in this case, I'll get to hopefully show off the 2 HP damage boost version. So just hitting these flick lobbers, keeping an eye out for the flames. The audio on the flames is really important as well. I reverted back to this. Oh, I did not get that second EX off quite in time. 5 HP, but yeah, you get the idea. It's really hard to purposefully do some of these other strats. I'm realizing it's like because I've done this fight so many times like a certain way, and that's why you saw I preserved 3 X's for the phase transition, which actually what I believe I'll do is next I will play this fight out one more time to try to do that, give that strat a little bit better justice. I figure, though, these attempts are good to kind of see, for you all to see how I'm handling these clouds, to get an idea. But obviously, some of these endings have been a little bit sketch. Try to make handle your lobber cooldown the best you can in amongst all this. It's pretty chaotic and difficult, but you can get better at it over time. Okay, there. I actually used the EXs the right way. Using my cards. Now, when I get this card, I can go in. Okay, I'm going in. And finishing them off. There we go. Much better demonstration. So that gives you a few fights to kind of check out. Ignore the ending on that last one. That was a bit sloppy. I didn't do those EXs nearly quick enough. But you get the idea. Now I'm going to pull up a fight with a really aggressive ending to give you an idea of like what you can kind of start doing to really get as much damage as possible and shave off a little bit more time on Grim once you're confident enough. All right, so I pulled up a fight here to look at. This fight starts off with a pretty normal phase 1 here. Just dodging these couple eye lasers. Getting the EX there. Had the tail in a little bit of an awkward spot from where I'd like, so I had to kind of back up and do some flick lobbers there. I'm aiming for doing 3 EXs, and those are going to be the only 3 EXs that I do until as we're moving into the towards the final phase. So here I got a good lobber trap. And I'm not using any EXs in this phase. Now I know that it's a when you're like at 3 cards, here's how I think of this personally for this strat, is I'm only using 3 X's in phase 1 because they're very efficient. Then I'm not using any more until this transition. So the visual cue I'm using for my card count is when I get 3 cards, I start trying to position myself to adjust for the jank hitbox on the transition. Because I know that around at 3.5, almost 3.5 cards is when this transition is going to happen. So you could see me kind of already positioning. If I was like up here somewhere and the transition happened, these lobbers would be going down here and missing. So because I'm positioning like this, these lobbers are able to hit. Now I'm going for spread here at ASAP, and I'm jumping, and I'm going to be trying to use a bunch of EXs here, basically, with my Calva swaps. Now, doing this and managing your positioning and weapon cooldown with the random clouds and the jank hitbox is very difficult, and this is why I recommend only trying for this strat. I mean, you could try for it whenever you want, but my personal recommendation is to wait till you're good at everything else in the fight until you start going for this particular strat. But yeah, I jump because it allows my EX to push me even further back, so I'm able to stay facing left without actually having to move right, because the clouds are kind of moving under me. Whereas if I EX while still on the ground, I would be still a lot closer to Grim, and I'd have to actually turn right sooner. So here, I'm going to get to do another one to push me onto this cloud. Now, obviously, this is just all improvisation. You know, it depends on the clouds that you get. Whether you're going to do this. Sometimes I'll have a cloud that's like a little higher like this one, and then there's one down there, and I'll have to drop through the cloud to keep hitting the hitbox and EX and then float down to the next cloud. But because I know his hitboxes, I know that this part here is actually safe. So he has a hitbox back here in the body, and he has this weird hitbox down here that we were hitting earlier. But this is open for a bit. His heads don't become active right away. So as you can see, I actually used this cloud, which was a really lucky cloud to have, to aim at this body part of the hitbox without having to take a damage boost yet. So I just go for another EX there. I know I'm going to get hit there anyways because the heads are becoming active. So I just tank a hit. And this is because I recognize that there's an ultra high cloud. These are pretty rare to get one this high up, but I'm able to get off a Spready X and jump up just shy of me taking a second hit. And I'm able to stand on this cloud for a little bit. And that stalling on that cloud for a little bit, because it's high enough that I'm standing above the body, I was able to keep shooting spread DPS this entire time. And then as soon as I get this last card, I could use it. And this is kind of how the fight played out for me in my 47.42. So this is like a good example of how crazy this ending can be. So let me just play this out in full time. You can see me going for all these EXs that I saved up, making use of that hitbox, getting that Spready X off, jumping up there just before I got hit, and then killing Grim off right before I die. So those are some ideas of what you could do. Now, it's rare to have clouds that good, but what you can do is, for example, start this off a similar manner, and then like right here, if I didn't have this high cloud, I would just jump EX and go backwards towards this cloud and lobber him for a bit until I've generated my cards a little bit more. And then once I've generated maybe a tiny bit more cards, then I go in. And you can do some cheeky stuff, like if this cloud wasn't here and you need to stall a little bit, like you need a little bit more spread time so that you could like kill him before you die, you can jump up above Grim's head and body, like jump up here and then do a lobber EX facing straight down. And this will hover you above Grim. So these are all ways that you can kind of initiate the damage boost a little bit sooner than that one visual cue I told you about where it's like, oh, I generated the 7th card, now I go in for the double damage boost. You can go in a little bit before you generate the 7th card and safely jump up and lobber EX down. Now this strat's a lot more difficult and risky, and it just takes a lot of good improvisation to kind of manage the clouds and whatnot. So yeah, this is like this is the kind of ending to work up to, and it is rare, very rare that I ever get an ending this good, but you can start to get more and more aggressive at these endings as you get more confident in the fight. But like I said, I kind of recommend working up to that. Just at first, try to get good at all the other things in the fight, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and just end the fight with lobber, just regular lobber EXs. Then as soon as you're confident to start getting 3 HP into the last phase, see you have it, as soon as you get that 7th card, jump in, switch to spread, and go for that double damage boost with a couple Spready X's to finish Grim off. Also, you might wonder why I'm not doing, like, on that strat, why I'm not doing, like, a bunch of Spready X's. It's just because how the card count generation, like, turns out. The last EX would overkill a bit if you did a couple more Spready X's earlier in the fight. Rather than just the 1 extra or maybe sometimes 2 extra that I do. So adding in another Spready X or 2 doesn't really seem to ever save time. And it's more difficult since you're having to like do a bunch of Spready X's while on these random clouds and in Grim's jank hitbox. So that's why I only go typically for 1 or 2 Spready X's leading up until the killing blow Spready X that I do finish it. But yeah, that's it for Isle 2. I was gonna make this tutorial all in one part, but I'm actually going to split it up here. So I'll see you all in the next part. Good luck on your Cuphead adventures.